Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm doing well, Aubrey. Excited to be here on IELTS Energy with you. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm great as well. I have a question for you.
All right.
When is the last time you had a light bulb moment?
Oh my gosh, light bulb moment. I think it's been a while, right? I feel like I need to meditate more often or something, whatever evokes those light bulb moments. But I had one when I was hiking the Camino de Santiago in my 20s, that I wanted to start my own business. And I did after that. So that was a big light bulb moment that
Yeah, that's a big
yeah.
one, right? It's interesting. This expression could be for big things like that, right? It could be
Yes.
for something small as well. Well, sometimes I'll have sort
Mhm.
of a realization about one of my kids, something they need or
Yes.
something I could do to spend time with them, which is also a
Yes.
light bulb moment, any kind of realization, right? So this
Totally.
is interesting. It's
Mhm.
actually quite a flexible idiom. It can be used so many different ways. We
Mhm.
taught 5 idioms with the word moment in a recent episode. Scroll up if you
Okay.
missed it. Today we're going to use them in Band 9 Sample Part 1 answers because you need idiomatic language on IELTS speaking, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, so today's episode is all about those sample answers. And yeah, you definitely need idiomatic language and good, interesting idiomatic language that is not what everyone else is using. Right, Aubrey?
Right. It can't be, there are some very common idioms, maybe raining cats and dogs, piece of cake. That still would be band 6 because
Hmm.
they're so common. Students use them so often. So, in
Yeah.
order to score band 7 or higher, you need idiomatic language, phrasal verbs, idioms, but also it needs to be something that examiner's not hearing multiple times a day in order to score 7 or higher. And we
Nice.
talked about this on the last episode. It's so vital to learn idioms that are pretty flexible that you could
Yes.
use for lots of different answers because some of them are quite specific and you might not get asked the exact right question you need to use that idiom.
Yeah, I love what came out of that last episode. We did say it's really valuable to create kind of a bucket of hyper flexible idioms and expressions, and then think about where to fit those in and then practice that instead of trying to come up in the spot in the moment with the right idiom. That's hard to do.
Exactly. So that's what we're showing you here today. We are going to give you 4 Band 9 Part 1 answers where we have these idioms that we taught last time, right? Light bulb moment, spur of the moment, caught up in the moment. There are quite a few. And we'll give feedback after each of the answers to show why it's high scoring, to show how we use those idioms. But we have them ready. They're pretty flexible. And we're going to use them on these answers.
Nice. And there will be a part 3 to this series too, right, Aubrey? Or
Exactly.
no?
We're also going to show you how to use these idioms in part 2 answers. So those are
Okay.
longer. You have to take a full 2 minutes to talk about something. You also need to use idiomatic language in those answers. And these are perfect. They're flexible. They can be used for a lot of different part 2 questions as well. So be sure to hit follow so that you don't miss part 3.
All right. And I want to call out some of our amazing listeners who took the time to leave us a review. Special
Yes.
thank you to 123456 in China. Reviewed us with 5 stars on May 30th. Apple XUEP from China on May 18th, another 5 stars, Aubrey. And let's
Amazing.
see, Yifu on April 10th. We so appreciate your reviews, everyone. Please go ahead and leave a review because we will announce your name. We'll try to announce your name on the show. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the reviews. It means a lot to us, and it also helps others find the show. So, everyone out there studying for IELTS will be able to get all of our good tips and advice and strategies.
All right. So, just a quick review again. Remind us one more time, Aubrey, when we do these speaking sample answers for part 1, how long should our answer be?
Yeah, your part 1 answers should be 3 to 5 sentences. So,
Okay.
they're pretty quick, right? Part
Yeah.
2 is the long one, 2 minutes. Part 3 answers are longer as well. They're closer to a minute each.
Okay.
Part 1 answers, they're going to be shorter because they're usually a simpler question. But
Hmm.
it's interesting because if you do talk too long, your score doesn't go down. The examiner will stop you. They'll say thank you and ask the next question because they have to
Hmm.
ask a certain amount of questions, but that won't hurt your score. But you should
Okay.
be aiming for about 3 to 5 sentences. Don't repeat yourself. Don't
Hmm.
summarize, right? You need to be adding new
Mm.
information with everything you say.
That's an important point. Don't
Yeah.
summarize because I think a lot of people might think they should because it's kind of academic. It's kind of like
Right.
you would do in an essay, maybe. it just feels like you should summarize in a
Yeah, that's
sense. That's
especially
interesting.
tempting with part 2 if
Yeah.
the examiner hasn't stopped you yet. So, you know, it hasn't been 2 minutes. Students often will find themselves summarizing what they've said, offering
Mm,
conclusions, but then you get stuck where you've summarized and there's still extra time. What do you do then? That's tricky. So, we recommend that you just never summarize at all. Also,
okay.
because this is pulling down your fluency and vocabulary scores to repeat anything. You want to add new information.
Okay. I love it. All right, Aubrey, let's get started with the first sample answer, which you will answer. Here is the question. Have you ever changed your mind about something important?
Absolutely. When we were moving from Arizona, we were thinking about moving rather, and we were considering all of the options. We could have moved anywhere because my partner and I both work from home. We could have gone to the East Coast. We considered North Carolina, going back to New York. We could potentially even have moved out of the country, but we sort of had a light bulb moment where we decided we wanted our children to know their grandparents. So we decided to stay in Arizona where they can be close to family.
I love this. Fantastic work. I like first of all how you opened your answer with absolutely and you really punched the syllables there, right? With a full pronunciation and I guess it probably gave you time to think. Am I right?
Definitely, right? Sometimes the way we start our answer, I can't pause and think of a time that this
No.
has happened to me. I've changed my mind, but you might not have that right on the tip of your brain. Give
Right.
yourself time with a filler phrase, right? Absolutely. You know, in your life at some point you've changed your mind about something important.
Yes.
Use a filler phrase, give yourself just a little bit of time to decide what you want to answer.
Yep. And that also sets you in a very positive emotional state in a way, right? Absolutely is a very positive answer. And you are going to think of it in that instant. You just need a couple seconds to come up with it, right? And you also used, we sort of had a light bulb moment. So you used the key
Mm.
idiom, but then you also said we sort of had, which seems really appropriate for part one because it's casual the way you said that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We will often use an idiom like this that could be bigger. Like you mentioned,
Hmm.
right? A light bulb moment about starting a business that's much bigger. If it's something that seems a little smaller, a little more casual, we will sort of soften it with this. We kind of, or we sort of had a light bulb moment.
Yes, I love it. That's what I heard that I liked on that one.
Awesome. All right, let's ask you a question, Lindsay. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
Do you often get emotional?
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Actually, the times when I get the most emotional are the times when I'm not taking care of myself, right? So I'll get caught up in the moment when am tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, maybe I haven't been sleeping well. And then something will happen and I will really kind of feel I'll be in the heat of the moment at that point. I'll get caught up in the moment. I'll really burst out in emotion. But otherwise, I don't really tend to get super emotional if I'm calm, taking care of myself, eating well, sleeping well, exercising, meditating, doing all the things to stay more down to earth.
Nice. Excellent example. Really great use of these idioms we had learned to be caught up in the moment and for something to happen in the heat of the moment, which these are perfect to use when you're asked a question like this about getting emotional. How often do you get emotional? What happens when you get emotional, right? If it
Hmm.
were a part 2 question, then you would have time to share a story with details about one of those
Yes.
times. But where it's not, this is perfect to take 3 to 5 sentences. You're still giving a lot of examples about what if you are, things that you are doing that keep you from getting emotional. You're listing
Hmm.
these interesting things, meditation, exercise, all of those details you share that increase your vocabulary and fluency scores, but also adding these idioms that are pretty flexible, right? You can either
Nice.
talk about getting caught up in the moment or not getting caught up in the moment, depending on what the
Hmm.
question is, and fit these idioms into a lot of different answers.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to practicing this a ton, guys, right? Practicing speaking part one, two, and three so much that we have that flexibility, that fluency to fit in the key vocabulary.
Absolutely. This would be really difficult to do if you just hear our podcast, you hear these
Mhm.
idioms, okay, perfect, and then go on test day and expect to be able to call them to mind for different answers. But if you've
Yeah.
practiced, if you've answered today's questions, a lot of different questions, and thought about how you can fit these idioms that are pretty flexible into a lot of different answers, then you'll be ready. It'll be part of your active vocabulary. And whatever questions you're asked on test day, one of them, you're going to be able to talk about either getting caught up in the moment, having a light bulb moment, something happening the spur of the moment, last minute, right? Any of these
Yes.
idioms you could work into an answer.
Yep, and we're going to get into those other idioms after the break. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
I dropped my pencil, so
Uh,
Gasper will have to edit this with the clock. I don't know, it's clear over here. I couldn't take any notes on that one. Okay.
oh, okay. I'll make a note around
Make a note. Edit the
around
clap and that.
10:52. Yep, at around 10:52. No
I was
worries,
trying
no
to like
worries.
feel it with my feet and I couldn't.
Oh, no
Okay, now I'll
problem.
be ready to give better feedback if I can take notes. I was like, I just have to remember.
All right, all good. Here we go. All right, Gaspar, we can restart the episode. Here we go, Aubrey. And so now, Aubrey, let's take a look at another sample answer, which I will be answering this one. Yeah, looking
Yeah,
forward to
perfect. Are
it.
you ready for your question? Another
Yes,
part one question here.
yes.
Lindsay, I wouldn't say Lindsay. I'm going to ask as if you're an IELTS student. Do you prefer planned holidays or spontaneous trips?
Well, honestly, I've found that I really thrive more on spontaneous trips. I really like it when something happens at the spur of the moment, right? So there is some kind of decision that's made in the spur of the moment, and we're able to, I don't know, just be present in that moment. And so, that's what I prefer is the spontaneous trips. That's when the best ideas come to me. I'm able to be, as I said, be the most present. And yeah, that was a bad answer.
I kind of love that you gave a lower scoring answer because it makes the episode more interesting sometimes when not only is this more relatable,
yeah.
like all of you
Uh-huh.
out there practicing these answers, this helps you to see that even for a native speaker, it can be difficult,
Yes.
especially
Oh.
if you're trying to use specific vocabulary, which you guys have to do. You
Mhm.
have to have idioms ready and use them for specific answers. It does make it more difficult to just say the first thing you think of, very simple
Yes.
answers with basic vocabulary. Those answers won't score 7 or higher. So when you're trying to
Yes.
use higher scoring vocabulary, idioms that you've been
Mhm.
practicing, if you haven't practiced it, it is difficult. So I love that.
It's tough.
It
Yes, I
is
ran out of
tough.
ideas, Aubrey. My mind kinda went blank, and I got tired, and I was like, "Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Okay, not sure what else
Okay,
to
my
add to
first tip,
this."
because the first 2 or 3 things you said were perfect. I loved this first
Okay.
sentence.
Mm.
Well, honestly, I've found that was a great way to start this. It gave you a little bit of time to think. What's also a really
Yes.
good linking phrase, your fluency and coherence score for task 2 for IELTS speaking, the examiner is listening for those linking phrases, those transition phrases in
Yes.
order to give you a 7 or higher. So those are
Okay.
vital as well. We've talked about
Yes.
those on other episodes. So that was great to say, well, honestly, it's very native and natural to
Mhm.
start a question and answer that way. And then some
Yes.
great vocab. You said you thrive on spontaneous trips. So band
Mhm.
6, you might say, I really like spontaneous trips.
Right.
Band 9 is to use a phrasal verb like thrive on. And that's also
Yes.
idiomatic language, right? I
Mm.
thrive on this. And then you use this great idiom spur of the moment, right? When we can make
Mhm.
decisions, spur of the moment is another way to
Yes.
say spontaneous because we're trying not to repeat vocabulary. And then the
Yes.
best tip we could give here, Lindsay, and for all of you out there, as you're
Mhm.
practicing answering these questions, that would have sufficed. You could have stopped there, done. You've
Oh,
answered the
okay.
question. You know you
Ah.
can't talk at length or tell a whole big long story or you're going to get interrupted, but they don't
Mhm.
have to be 3 to 5 sentences. It doesn't have to be a lot
Okay.
more than that. Some of your
Got
answers
it.
can be shorter, right? So
Okay.
you could have stopped there
So
because then you found yourself sort of repeating yourself and
repeating.
summarizing.
Yes,
So
yes,
instead,
and
and
no
that
new
students do.
content was coming in. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
it's easy to do. Right? We all do it. So the best thing
Mhm.
is if you feel like you have answered if you know you have answered the question, just stop
Mhm.
and let the examiner ask the next question.
I love it. Yeah, have the confidence to stop. I love it. All right. Let's flip over to one more sample answer, Aubrey. This is, are you ready for it?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice?
Ooh, yes. Just a few days ago, my daughter was
Ah.
visiting and she shared with me something about one of my siblings' children. So either a niece or a
Mm.
nephew. And it was something that she felt like their parents should know, but she didn't want to have it come back to her.
Mhm.
So she um, told me and asked me not to share. And because
Mm.
it was something illegal and dangerous, I
Yeah.
decided to tell the parents. So I sort of betrayed her trust. She was upset with me, but I had to make this spur of the moment decision to do the right thing, to tell the parents what had happened.
Yes, nice. I love that. You used a real life example, which is it's a good idea to do that. Use material directly from your real life. I like the vocabulary betrayed, right? High level. And then you
Mm.
mentioned the idiom spur of the moment decision. I had to make a spur of the moment decision. Your pronunciation was good because I could feel the emotion in your
Mm.
voice, right? That's the value of using our true stories or true examples. I can feel that was a hard decision. On your end, that has to insert pronunciation variability, right?
Definitely, right? You are wanting that to let that emotion, that expressiveness come out to get
Mhm.
that variation of intonation, right? But this
Yes.
spur of the moment is maybe going to be the easiest, the most flexible for you to use anytime you make a decision or whatever you do. Imagine you're asked about birthdays, restaurants you like to eat at,
Mhm.
anything you could say you did, on the spur of the moment. It was a spur of the
Yes.
moment decision. That will be a really
Yes.
easy one to throw into lots of answers.
There you go. Having that flexible vocabulary that can go into all different categories of questions, of topics. So good
Yes.
to have in our back pockets, Aubrey.
Yeah, so if
Great.
you missed it, scroll up now to see 1512. This is where we taught these idioms. It was called Take a Moment to Boost IELTS Vocabulary Scores. And be sure to hit follow so you can get part 2. We'll share these idioms and how you can use them in sample part 2 answers.
All right. Sounds good, Aubrey. And what's a takeaway for today for our listeners? Where should we leave them?
Yes, I love how you are emphasizing, Lindsay, these must be practiced, right? It is not
Mhm.
easy. Just like Lindsay was showing, it's so easy to start repeating yourself or
Yes.
summarizing if you haven't practiced IELTS answers a lot, right?
It's
How
true.
often during the week do you give IELTS answers for speaking? Not often. None of
Not
us do.
often enough. Yeah.
Yeah, right? So it is something that must be practiced. You have to take these
Yeah.
idioms. You can't just add them to a list. You need to use them in
Mhm.
sample answers so that on test day, you're ready and they come to you really easily.
Exactly. And guys, we give you all the templates, the tactics, the strategies that you need within our system inside our course, right, Aubrey? So you can go over to allearsenglish.com/KEYS if you want to go deeper into our study plan to make this easier and more simple. We'll tell you exactly what to do each day.
Absolutely. Yes. Hopefully we will see you in the course, allearsenglish.com/keys. Thanks,
All
Lindsay.
right.
Great episode today.
Thanks, Aubrey. Take care. Bye.
Bye.